Welcome, everybody. I want to get started right here about noon.
Is there a sign-up sheet?
There is not a sign-up sheet. Yeah, exactly. I'm Joan Plank. I'm chair of the Oregon State Capitol Foundation. We've added a speaker series to the events that we help sponsor to bring people into the Capitol building, and we're thrilled to have a wonderful group of speakers coming in this year. I want to introduce Representative Andy Olson. He is going to introduce Senator Yih today. He is represents District 15 in the Albany area and has been in the legislature since 2005. Representative.
Thanks, Joan. So you're recording. No wonder this is in front of me. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. And I just want to I feel like I need to get out of the way here so you can see her rather than me. I'll do it this way. How's that?
There you go. That's better.
Okay. I just want to take a few minutes and kind of share a little bit about what I know of Mae Yih. Tracking her when I was with the state police years ago, I realized that she was a sore thumb in the Senate side on wanting things the way she wanted. And actually, be truthful with you, I'm just joking with that. She is a woman of principle. She does not waver from her values, from what I know of her. She happens to be a neighbor of mine. So I'm going to kind of go in and out of here. But I mean, you know the history behind her. She spent 6 years in the House, and then she moved over for 20-some years over on the Senate side there. And I really kind of got to know her a little bit when I returned back to the Albany area as the area commander down there out of that office. And we went out. She wanted to get together and talk about different things that came about public safety, especially state police. Where did she want to go? Do you remember? She's okay. She wanted to go to a McDonald's. So we went and sat down at McDonald's, and I'm in uniform. There she is, and I mean, I'm just thinking, okay, so here's this little gal that's really professional and everything. She's a senator. I'm feeling like I should get down on the floor and start doing push-ups right now. Okay. Well, one thing I really appreciate about her is she is very savvy when it comes to business. She cares about people. It was interesting. Well, here I was, Republican in her Senate district, and I would vote for her. Back then, and that was before I got into this environment. But why did I do that? Was because she really came across that she cared about people, and she didn't mind about which side of the aisle. That's one of the things I really appreciated about her. But I want to share just a little story with you here. Every once in a while, we'll talk on the phone or we'll shoot emails back and forth. And since she's a little more than a mile away from me, she called and wanted to talk to me about some things, especially the Superfund that's going on up in the Willamette River, EPA and DEQ with the businesses up there. And she wanted to share that with me. She had cookies ready for me in her kitchen, so I knew I was going to be there for a while. But what was interesting in our conversation, she starts talking about getting stung by bees. And it was during the summer. She likes to garden. And so we're starting to talk back and forth, and all of a sudden I realized, well, she's just not getting stung. She's getting bit by yellow jackets. So it was a very interesting summer working together. But I came back there 3 different times. We finally got rid of the yellow jacket's nest in the ground. But she was more concerned that I was going to get bit. Getting in there with them and everything. I just told her, I said, well, it's the little boy and me coming out right now because I want to, kill him. That's it. But Mae Yih is one quality lady. I'll just tell you that. I have an extreme amount of respect for her. I have come to a point where I really depend on her insight on some things. So I think with that, I don't really need to share much more about you, Senator. She doesn't like me to call her Senator either, but I still do. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Olson. Representative Olson is not only an outstanding legislator He is also a wonderful neighbor. He sprayed Yellow Jackets' nests for me at least 3 times because the county extension agent would not come out to help me when I live way far out in the country. He is very talented, very versatile, and a great friend. I want to start my remarks by answering a question I have often heard. Can you all hear me in the back? Okay. I heard this question many times. Why did I spend so much time during the last 8 years writing my husband Stephen's biography and in my autobiography when I could have been spending time with grandchildren and relaxing like other retirees do? Well, one reason I write my husband's biography was because I wanted to tell the extreme hardship he went through to pay for graduate school tuition and living expenses, his pioneer work in the metals industry, his love for his family and his colleagues, and his driving force behind the founding of the city of Millersburg. I wrote my autobiography is because I wanted to share with my 4 grandsons the experiences and lessons I learned during my life and career. Experiences that included my childhood in China, where I lived through devastating times like the Japanese invasion and occupation of China, World War II, dictatorship under Chiang Kai-shek, and the 1948 Communist Revolution that overtook China. These experiences gave me a deep love and appreciation of freedom and democracy in America. Another reason I wrote my autobiography was because I wanted to pay tribute to individuals who had an influential role in my life, an important role in my life. Individuals like my parents, my late husband, and a remarkable woman named Millicent McIntosh, who served as dean and later president of Barnard College, my alma mater, a women's college of Columbia University from 1947 to 1962, at a time when women were still not granted the same rights as men. President Millicent McIntosh foresaw a time when women would not have any door closed to them. She would share important remarks during our weekly student assembly. She would always repeat the same message: use your education, be involved in the decision-making process for the benefit of your community. Those words had a profound impact on my life, as they were the words that inspired me to begin the journey that would lead to my public service career. Believe it or not, my public service career started when my 2 sons were in elementary school in Albany. One of their teachers called and asked if I would bring cookies to the classroom for Valentine's Day. I wanted to say no because I was busy supervising construction of our new house, and I am also not a very good cook. But I thought about the words of Millicent McIntosh about being involved in the community. And I decided if the teacher asked me to do something, if she needs help, I need to say yes. So I made a batch of cookies. So every time the teacher would ask me to do something, like serve as a room mother, a Cub Scout stand mother, a hot lunch program coordinator, like cooking hot dogs for the kids so they can have a hot lunch, serve as chaperone of a field trip to the zoo, or become involved in the parents-teachers club. My answer was always yes, no matter how busy I was. My involvement got a little more serious when one of the secretaries at the elementary school said there was an opening on the school board. She wanted to know if I was interested in serving. She also recommended that I attend a meeting to see what it was like. I went to the meeting, and I was appalled. The board members were all men. They spent what seemed like an hour talking about which riding lawnmower the school should purchase, but devoted only 5 minutes to a discussion of not renewing the employment of a teacher, whom I thought was the very best in the school, as she was one of a few who actually assigned homework. I was so frustrated with that decision. I returned to the board, the next board meeting, with a petition signed by parents in the neighborhood asking for reconsideration of the non-renewal decision. After they refused to do so, I decided to run for the open seat. A few months later, I won the election. The promise I made during my campaign was that I would work to achieve maximum results for minimum amount of tax dollars. I remained true to that promise during my time on the school board, on the elementary school board, and I made the same promise when I was elected to the Albany High School Board a few years later. It was during my service on the high school board that I made a statement which received public and media attention. The superintendent of the school presented to the board 5 thick, voluminous books of school curriculum and asked for immediate approval. I objected to a vote, saying if the board was going to do its job, we needed time to review before approval. Much to my amazement, the curriculum was approved that very evening without any review at all. I made my frustrations very clear. We are here to provide checks and balances. If we don't do that, we might as well go home and watch TV. My quote, along with a photograph of me, was featured in a story in the newspaper the next day. I also voted against the budget increase, which included purchase of land for a proposed new junior high school when student enrollment was declining. Shortly after that meeting, the Linn County Democrat Party chairman called and said that my standing up for students, parents, and taxpayers have earned respect, and that I should run for the Oregon House of Representatives, as he believed I would be the only candidate that can beat the powerful 7-term incumbent. I told him no, I was not interested in becoming a politician. But he wouldn't take no for an answer. Remembering the words of President McIntosh, and together with the strong support of my husband, I reluctantly decided to run. I spent a good share of the next 8 months going door to door. I shook more hands than I could count, and I discovered that people like it when I asked them for their thoughts and concerns and took notes of what they said and followed up with a prompt research and response. I based my campaign on the same principles I did when I ran for the school boards. Government needs to live within its income. It needs to set priorities and be accountable for its spending and services. On election day, I won by 593 votes with a 51.7% of the votes, becoming the first Chinese American woman to be elected to the state legislature in the United States in 1976. The good people of Linn and Benton counties would elect me to serve a total of 3 two-year terms in the House of Representatives and 5 four-year terms in the Oregon State Senate. The large part of my book is devoted to discussing my actions and priorities during my 26 years in the legislature. Priority number 1 was to reflect the needs of citizens in my district and do everything I could to help them solve problems with the state government. Literally thousands of cases and requests crossed my desk, and nothing gave me more pleasure or satisfaction than to be able to cut some bureaucratic red tape and make things right for an individual or a business in my district. My second priority was to restrain the size and spending of state government and to promote growth and economic development for Oregon and my legislative district. My philosophy could best be summed up by the words often credited to Thomas Jefferson: the best government is that which governs the least. I am especially proud of a 2.5-year effort I waged to roll back property taxes increase that was an unintended result of a successful ballot measure which promised to actually lower property taxes. It's a very complex story that I fully detail in my book, but the bottom line was that my successful effort has reduced property taxes for Linn County taxpayers $5 million a year for the past 18 years, a total of $90 million so far, and will continue into the future. My third priority was to continue to work for a public school system that focused on basics and that wisely use tax dollars. I wish I could say that our schools and test scores are rated high in the nation, but they are not. In fact, only 55% of Oregon students meet the state standards in reading, and only 42% meet state standards in math. Policymakers in Salem, not you, continue to think that the answer is to throw more money at the problem. The poor results of the past few decades have proven that more money is not the solution. Living in China, growing up in China, I saw firsthand that education does not need to be expensive. The key to quality education are involved parents, devoted teachers, and students instilled with the value of respect, hard work, discipline, and a love of learning. My fourth priority was to work for a healthy, job-producing, natural resources economy, which was one of the major employers in my district. And one way to achieve this is through my fifth priority, which is to improve understanding, friendship, trust, and prosperity between my adopted country, the United States, and my mother country, the People's Republic of China. I am proud to report that my efforts in establishing sister state relations with Fujian province, organizing 4 legislative trade missions to China, sponsoring 5 Chinese students in graduate studies in Oregon, opening an Oregon office in China, and many other efforts have proven fruitful. Not long after I made my first trip to China as a legislator in 1981, promoting export of Oregon wheat, Oregon was 10th largest export market of Oregon, with its value estimated at $89 million. Today, China is Oregon's largest export market, with its export value by International Trade Administration at $4.8 billion. While I cannot take credit for all those exports, I know that my effort and contacts have made a positive difference in changing attitudes and opening doors. Let me conclude my remarks by showing you a letter I consider the very best letter I received during my 26 years in the legislature. I received probably over 100,000 letters during the 26 years in the legislature. As you can see, this letter was written on a brown bag paper. It was written by a homeless person whom I had made sure had received all the information he needed on how to obtain rental assistance for low-income citizens. In this letter, he thanked me for the information, and he scotch-taped a nickel to the letter, saying, "Here's a little money for you for your campaign this fall. Best wishes, and I'll vote for you." Rather than giving this nickel to my campaign, I decided to keep it as a reminder how much it meant to people to have someone on their side, and the difference you could make if you remember the words of Millicent McIntosh, to be involved in the decision-making process for the benefit of your community. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Anybody have questions?
Just a comment, Senator Yih. Jim Stembridge, I was one of your committee administrators. Thank you for coming back to tell us about your story.
Hey, Jim, we understand that, so you can yell at her.
Yes, Representative.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for attending the meeting.
Mary?
I hope you enjoyed my book, and if anybody has questions, you can email me. maeyih@hotmail.com.
Senator, I was a brand new lobbyist when you went into the Senate, and I want to thank you for teaching me the value of talking to people who don't always agree with you. And I want to thank you for always disagreeing with grace. But I also want to thank you for your service, because it was a long career, and those of us who've been in the building a long time know how valuable your counsel was, and I appreciate every minute that you ever spent with me. Thank you.
She doesn't have a question.
No questions yet. They just want to thank you for all your service.
I appreciate your support.
Any questions out there?
Senator, you mentioned about you try to bridge the education system.
Do you want to use the mic?
No.
Well,
No?
I can hear, so
Oh, okay.
I'll
Okay.
summarize.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, you talk about the education system between two countries. I was educated in China too, so I see the difference between the two countries. Which one, I don't see which one best or which one worse. But if we can merge these two systems together, it will be benefit for both sides. In China, it's very strict, very structured, no creativity. But in here, free then system. So how can we merge this, make the system better?
So the question is, how do you think you could merge the Chinese system of education with the United States system of education? How can you merge them to make them better?
Well, I believe that we need to, in America, we need to offer stronger courses and make sure the students work hard to learn. Because, for example, in China, during the war, the Japanese army took away our school for army hospital. So we had to move to downtown Shanghai, use a small building for, let's say, I would say 180 girls. It's a girls' school. So we had half-day classes. So one group would go in the morning, one group go in the afternoon. So we went for 4 hours in the morning on basic courses, English, math, science, Chinese, history, in the morning. And when we went home, we did 4 hours of homework. And then at night, we did 2 hours of Chinese brush calligraphy, the large character, small characters. And the next day, the teacher say, student, you get up and recite Tang Dynasty poem. We had to stand up and recite poem. So I think stronger courses, hard work, discipline, respect should be the key for quality education. I went to Barnard College in New York. I finished 3 years of college in 2.5 years. And you know why? It's because we had good foundation, good work habit. So even with change of language, it wasn't hard, and it really makes a lot of difference when you have a good foundation. I asked one of the high school teacher, I say, why is it your only 42% of students can pass math tests? And that's unacceptable. She said, that's the 11th grade scores. By the 12th grade, they would pass. They would be better than 42%. But I think that's not acceptable. We should make it by 11th grade, they can pass math tests with reasonable score. So to answer your question, it probably would mean stronger courses earlier. And I always say, let's not promote them without passing certain standards in each grade. No social promotion, because if you keep promoting them without their being able to read and write, by the high school time, they would drop out. They couldn't learn. So they have to understand and pass and achieve the standards of every grade before they can be promoted. Does that answer your question?
Just in curiosity.
Other questions?
Senator Yee, you wrote both Stephen's biography and your autobiography.
Yes.
Which was more challenging and why?
You got it?
Which
Which
one?
book was more challenging to write, Stephen's biography or your autobiography?
Stephen's was harder because Stephen's memory was not good by the time he was weak and ill. And when I write about him, there are a lot of technical knowledge in nuclear energy, nuclear science, and I had to interview his colleagues to help me understand all those nuclear energy reaction. And he also advanced a lot of new process for metals. So it was a little more challenging. So his book was like this, and my book was like this.
All right, other questions?
Well, I want to extend a personal invitation for you all to visit Lane County's historic cover bridges near Scio. There are about 5 or 6 cover bridges near Scio. It was my special mission during the legislature. I just want to say very briefly that a constituent from Scio contacted me to make a speech for their rally to save cover bridges. So in order to make a speech, I had to do a little research. And I found out that in 1937, Oregon had 300 cover bridges. 50 years later, 1987, we only have 49 bridges. We lost 250 bridges in 50 years. The way it goes in another 10 years, we will have no cover bridges left. So I called the roadmaster in Lane County. I say, why can't we save the cover bridges? These historic sites are valuable and they're wonderful attraction for tourism. And the roadmaster said it costs $60,000 to repair the bridge, and it's only $30,000 for a concrete bridge. So we don't have the money, and we are going to dismantle it. So I was serving on the emergency board. I went to the legislative emergency board. I say, I'd like to have $60,000 to save the bridge. And emergencies board's policy is that they do not help individual projects. They help statewide agency bridges that benefit the whole state. So we couldn't save the Weddell Bridge, but the following session, I proposed legislation for inspection, cost of restoration, cost of maintenance. So I passed legislation to provide matching fund because county government always said they don't have the money. So we provided lottery money to save the cover bridges, and we provided transportation department for cover bridges that still carry regular traffic. So the inspection, the restoration, and the maintenance project have done a lot to save the cover bridges. Now we have 50 cover bridges because we saved the one that was dismantled. So you should come and visit Sile. They have about 5 or 6 cover bridges in that area. And there's also one in Sweet Home that was rebuilt from the Weddell Bridge.
Senator, thank you so much for being here today. This is great. I really enjoyed listening to you, and I'm really looking forward to reading your book, and Stephen's, the one you wrote on Stephen, too. So we need to adjourn from this room. There's a hearing that's coming in at 1 o'clock, but right outside is an opportunity to buy a copy of the Senator's book, and she's willing to sign copies for people that would like that as well.
And the money goes to...
And the money is going, thank you very
Foundation.
graciously, to the Oregon State Capitol Foundation. So we very much appreciate that. Our next speaker series event is March 23rd. Governor Barbara Roberts will be talking about her book. Thank you, Senator. It's just a delight.